Hey guys, so today we're going to learn about phrases, and phrases are a group of related words. That's it. No, I'm just kidding. So there's more to it. So yes, phrases are a group of related words, but phrases are also words or a group of words that do not contain a subject and a verb. So they do not have a subject and a verb in them. And also phrases do not express what? They do not express a complete idea. So complete here is the key word. So they do not express a complete idea. So what are our phrases? Phrases are a group of related words that do not have a subject and a verb, and also phrases do not express a complete idea. Now I have written down a few sentences for you, and let's just identify the phrases in this sentence. So the first sentence is he's standing near a wall. Okay, so he is our subject here, is standing is our verb, so near a wall. Okay, does near a wall have a subject? No. Near a wall, does it have a verb? No. Near a wall, does it express a complete idea? And the answer to that is no as well. So near a wall is a phrase which means it is a group of words. Let's look at the second sentence. She is laughing at our joker. So she here is our subject, is laughing is our verb, and at a joker, does it have a subject? Does it have a verb? It is a group of words. So that means it is a phrase as it is not denoting a complete idea. Let's take a look at the third sentence. Ron is making tea for the guest. Okay, let's do the same drill again. Ron is our subject, is making is our verb, tea here is our object, and what is for the guest? For the guest is a group of words again. It does not have a subject or a verb, and it is not making complete sense. It is not a complete idea, and therefore for the guest is a phrase. Let's look at the next sentence. The boy with the book in his hand won the prize. Okay, so the boy is our subject with the book in his hand. Okay, is there a verb there? Is there a subject there? No, there isn't. Okay, let's look at won the prizes. So won is our verb. So we have a subject here and a verb here. That means the boy and won the prizes is definitely not our phrase, because the first rule says that a phrase should not have a subject and a verb. So we are left with the book in his hand. With the book in his hand. Okay, does it have a subject? No. Does it have a verb? The answer to that is also no. So with the book in his hand, that is our phrase. And also notice that it is not necessary for a phrase to always come at the end of a sentence. So that's really it. These are our phrases here: near a wall, at the joker, for the guest, with the book in his hand. So phrases are a group of related words. They do not have a subject, they do not have a verb, and they do not express a complete idea. Now there are different types of phrases, and in our next lesson we are going to learn about the different types of phrases. In this lesson we are going to learn about the different types of phrases, but before we move on to its types, I just want to do a quick recap on phrases. So what is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words, and it does not have a subject and a verb. So it lacks a subject and a verb. What else is a phrase? A phrase is also a group of words that does not express a complete idea. So we have a phrase which is a group of words which does not have a subject and a verb, and it does not express a complete idea, and that is our phrase here. I want you guys to know that a phrase acts as a part of speech. So our parts of speech are nouns, adverbs, adjectives, verbs, prepositions. So a phrase can actually act as a part of speech, and basis its function and its structure, they are further classified into different types. So we are going to look at the different types of phrases. We are going to start with the first type of phrase, which is the noun phrase. So a noun phrase is a phrase which acts as a noun. What is a noun? A noun is a name of a person or an object, a place, a thing, or an idea. So a noun phrase is a group of words that actually acts as a noun. It performs the role of a noun. So this is the structure of a noun phrase. It starts with the noun and plus words that modify the noun or tell us something more about the noun. Let's look at the first sentence to understand noun phrases better. She brought a glass full of water. So we have learned that the noun phrase always starts with a noun. So glass here is a noun, and these words, glass full of water, they are a group of words that go together, and therefore this here is a noun phrase. So glass is our noun and these are its modifiers. So glass full of water. Let's look at the second sentence. A man on the roof was shouting. Okay. A man on the roof was shouting. So this is our noun here, because a noun phrase always starts with a noun. Don't forget that. And we have on the roof, and these are our modifiers which tell us something more about the man. So these are our noun phrases. So just remember one thing, that noun phrases are headed by nouns and they also come with modifiers or words that tell us a little bit more about the noun. So these here, glass full of water and a man on the roof, these are our noun phrases, as they are a group of words that do not have both subject and verb. Always remember this. And glass full of water and a man on the roof, they are not expressing a complete idea here, and that is why they are our phrases. Now noun clauses are further classified into appositive phrases, absolute phrases and gerund phrases. Let's look at those phrases. So next we are going to look at appositive phrases. Well, I do not want you to get scared by this word appositive. I know it seems like a scary, big, complicated word with an even more complicated meaning, but it's not like that at all. Appositive simply means something that redefines or clarifies its antecedent. Now this word antecedent may also sound complicated to you, but it simply means something that comes before it. So it is clarifying whatever comes before it. So just to give you clarity on appositive phrases, I have written down these two sentences for you, and let's look at them. The first sentence is, Bob, my best friend, is going to college. That's great. Congratulations, Bob. So Bob, my best friend, is going to college. Our appositive phrase here is my best friend. And also one more feature of appositive phrases is that it is offset by commas. So do you all see these commas here before my and after friend? That's because appositive phrases are often offsetted by commas. So Bob, my best friend, is going to college. Now let's look at the definition. Redefines or clarifies its antecedent. Here, my best friend is a noun phrase telling us more about Bob, which is coming before it. So comes before, an antecedent comes before, and what is coming before here? Bob. So this phrase, the appositive phrase, is telling us more about Bob and is telling us that he is going to college. Now, does it mean that an appositive phrase normally comes in between a sentence? No, it doesn't. It can also come at the end of the sentence, at the beginning of the sentence. But just remember one thing, it should always be offsetted by commas. So let's look at the second sentence. They stopped selling my favorite snack, the marshmallow cookie. Yes, they did. I'm really sad about this, and I hope they watch this video and they start my favorite marshmallow cookie again. Well, I'm just getting a little off track there. Let's go back to our sentence. they stopped selling my favorite snack, the marshmallow cookie. Okay, so our appositive phrase here is the marshmallow cookie because it is offsetted by a comma and it is telling us about what's coming before. My favorite snack. What is my favorite snack? The marshmallow cookie. And this is how you have to identify appositive phrases. Appositive phrases simply redefine or give us some clarity on what is coming before it. So, we have they stopped selling my favorite snack here. So, the marshmallow cookie, which is our appositive phrase, is simply giving us more information about my favorite snack, and it is always offsetted by a comma. So, we've learned two things. That an appositive phrase gives us clarity about the thing that comes before it. Now, initially I told you that an appositive phrase can come anywhere before or after. Well, in most cases, I would say that appositive phrases come either in the middle of the sentence, like here, my best friend, or they come at the end of the sentence, like in the second sentence here, the marshmallow cookie. And they are always offsetted by commas. So, these are our appositive phrases. So, our next type of noun phrase is the absolute phrase. Now, absolute phrase also goes by the name nominative phrase. And what is an absolute phrase? Well, absolute phrase is a phrase that modifies the entire sentence. So, absolute phrase, like I told you, it modifies the entire sentence. Let's get to learn about the structure of the absolute phrase now. So, this is how the structure looks. It has the noun plus words. What does that mean? This is funnier, nouns plus words. Well, just to let you know, the structure is noun plus verbals. What are verbals? Verbals are participles. So, a participle is a word that looks like a verb. So, let me give you an example of a participle here. So, this is our noun ski, and in the participle form, it would become skiing, and it has the ing, the ing at the end. So, it is not a verb because it does not function as a verb, but it functions as an adjective really. A participle is a word that looks like a verb. It has the ing at the end, but it functions as an adjective. And that is the structure of the absolute phrase. It has the noun plus it has the verbal. And one more thing. When I say words, I mean that it cannot have a to be verb with it. So, no to be verb. So, it can just have the noun and the verbal, the participle, no to be verbs or no main verbs. Okay? Because here we are not talking about an action, about a verb, but we are simply modifying the noun here. To understand the structure of the absolute phrase better, let's look at these sentences here. He looks sad, his face expressing worry. Okay. So here, this part, his face expressing worry, is our absolute phrase, as it is modifying or telling us more about the sentence, he looks sad. So, that's why, and one more thing to notice here is that it has the noun plus participle structure. So, this is our noun and this is our verbal, that is our participle expressing worry. So, it has a noun, and when I say words, I mean it can include participles, any other words, but it should not or it must not have any to be or auxiliary verbs or main verbs. I said to be verbs initially, but I would say that an absolute phrase should not or must not have the auxiliary verbs and any other main verbs. So, I'm not going to deep dive into auxiliary and main verbs because we had a lesson on that. And if you want some clarity on auxiliary and main verbs, I suggest you guys to take a look at that lesson first and then this lesson. So, let's look at the sentence again. He looks sad, his face expressing worry. So, that is the structure of our absolute phrase, the noun plus the verbal, that is the participle. and it should not include an auxiliary or a main verb. So let's look at the second sentence, and the second sentence is special to me because it is from one of my favorites, Harry Potter. So his heart beating fast, Harry stood listening to the chilly silence. So this part here, his heart beating fast here, it is our absolute phrase because it has a noun and it has a participle or a verbal. So it has the structure of an absolute phrase and it's modifying the other half of the sentence, which is Harry stood listening to the chilly silence. So it's giving us more information, or it's modifying the entire latter sentence. And that's how we have our absolute phrase. So we have learned about appositive phrases and absolute phrases. Let's look at the gerund phrases now. So our gerund phrase. A gerund is a word that looks like a verb. When I say it looks like a verb, it has the verb plus ing structure, but it does not perform the role of a verb because it does not express any action. So let's look at the first sentence here. I like writing essays. So I like writing essays. Here the gerund is writing. You may say that this is a verb, this is not a gerund, but here it is a gerund because it actually performs the role of a noun, because here we are talking about the act of writing, not about the doing of writing, and therefore this is our gerund phrase, writing essays. Let's look at the second sentence and let's identify our gerund phrase there. Walking to the beach is fun. Okay, so I think we have identified our gerund phrase, and the best way to do that is to find the word with the ing structure. So walking to the beach is our gerund phrase because walking to the beach is a group of words which is coming together and it has a gerund, walking to the beach. Here we are not talking about the doing of walking, about the action of walking, but simply the act of walking. So that was our third type of noun phrase, which is the gerund phrase. Let's move on to the next type of phrases. So our next type of phrase is the prepositional phrase. Now prepositions are words like in, on, at, over, under, about. All of these are our prepositions. So what is a prepositional phrase? Well, a prepositional phrase, I'm going to give you the trick to identify the prepositional phrase, which is a prepositional phrase starts with a preposition. So it starts with a preposition and normally it ends with a noun or a pronoun. To get a better understanding of a prepositional phrase, let's look at these sentences that we have here. So here in the first sentence, a boy on the roof is singing a song. Here on the roof is a prepositional phrase, but it's also our adjective phrase as it is telling us something about the noun, which is the boy here. Let's look at the second sentence. The lady in the room is our teacher. Let's identify our preposition, which is in. So in the room is our prepositional phrase, and this is also an adjective phrase because it's telling us about the lady in the room, which is our noun. So let's look at our third sentence. She is shouting in a loud voice. So the preposition is in, and in a loud voice is our prepositional phrase, and this phrase is also acting as an adverb as it is telling us something about the verb which is shouting. So how is she shouting? She's shouting in a loud voice. That's never good. Don't do that, but okay, she's shouting in a loud voice. So in a loud voice is our preposition, and it also plays a role of an adverb phrase since it is telling us in this sentence about the verb of shouting. Let's look at our fourth and our last statement, which is he always behaves in a good manner, and that is how you are supposed to behave, in a good manner. So let's identify our preposition, which is in again, in a good manner. This is our prepositional phrase, which is also acting as a, how does he behave? So behave is our verb. So it's in this case, it's also acting as an adverbial phrase. So these are our prepositional phrases. Just remember one thing, that a prepositional phrase always starts with a preposition. So we have in, over, under, at, on, all of these words are our prepositions. And a prepositional phrase is a group of words that starts with a preposition and normally it ends with a noun or a pronoun. So let's move on to our next type of phrase, which is the adjective phrase. So an adjective phrase gives us or plays the role of an adjective. And what does an adjective do? An adjective gives us more information about a noun or a pronoun. So gives us more information, or let's just say it modifies the noun, that is a place, an object, a person or an idea. So an adjective phrase is a group of words that act as an adjective. So let's look at the first sentence. He gave me a glass full of water. So here our adjective phrase is full of water, since it is modifying our noun glass. So full of water is our adjective phrase. Let's look at the second sentence to get a better understanding of adjective phrases. He is wearing a nice red shirt. Okay. So nice red shirt is our adjective phrase. We also have our noun here, shirt, and our adjective phrase is describing the noun shirt. So how is the shirt? It's nice and red. How is the glass? It's full of water. So just ask these questions to the noun, and if you have a phrase or that is a group of words describing the noun, then that is your adjective phrase. Let's look at our next type of phrase, which is the participle phrase. And I have it with the adjective phrase here because participle is a word that looks like a verb. So in the present form, it has this formation, verb plus ing. It looks like a verb in the continuous tense, and in the past tense, it has verb plus ed structure when we are forming the past tense of the regular verbs, that is. So let's focus on the ing form for this particular chapter. So participle is a word that looks like a verb, but it does not perform the role of a verb. It performs a role of an adjective, because a participle is a word that tells us more about the noun or the pronoun, in the same way like an adjective does. So let's look at the first sentence. The kids making a noise need food. Okay. So making a noise is our participle phrase here because it has the word making with the ing, and it is telling us more about the kids. It's telling us that the kids are making a noise. So therefore, that is our participle phrase. Now, an interesting thing is that participle phrases are offsetted by commas. So if you can see, we have a comma before making and after noise. So does it mean that a participle phrase should only come in the middle of a sentence? No, it can come at the end of the sentence, at the beginning of the sentence too. Let's look at the second sentence. I received a letter mentioning about my exam. So our participle phrase is mentioning about my exam because it's telling us more about the letter, which is our noun. It's telling us that the letter mentioned about my exam, and therefore mentioning about my exam is our participle phrase. Let's move on to our next types of phrases. So our next type of phrase is the verb phrase. A verb phrase is a group of words that consist of the main verb as well as auxiliary verbs. Now we have done a lesson on auxiliary verbs and main verbs. If you all don't know what they are, please go back and look at that lesson. But just to give you a general idea, main verbs are words or verbs like eat, sleep, walk, and auxiliaries are our helping verbs. So auxiliaries consist of to be, to have, and to do verbs like is, am, do, does, has, had. All these are auxiliary or are helping words. So going back to verb phrases include the main verbs and the auxiliary verbs. So there are a combination of both of them. Let's look at the first sentence here. He is eating an apple. So here is our auxiliary verb and eating is our main verb, and therefore this is our verb phrase. Let's take a look at the second sentence. She has finished her work. Okay. So, has is our helping verb and we have finished, which is our main verb, and has finished is our verb phrase. Let's take a look at the next sentence. She has been sleeping for 2 hours. Just 2 hours? But she has been sleeping for 2 hours. Anywho, let's get back to the sentence. So, we have has, which is our helping or auxiliary verb. Been sleeping, so we have has been sleeping. Sleeping is our main verb and been is our helping verb. So, a verb phrase is simply a combination of the main verb as well as the auxiliary verb. And that is how you all are supposed to identify the verb phrasal. Let's look at our next phrase, which is the infinitive phrase. So, infinitives are the base form of the verbs plus to. So, they come after the word to. Just to give you an example, an infinitive would be to eat, to sleep. So, sleep and eat are our main verbs or the base form of our verbs, and they are preceded by the word to. So, that is how an infinitive looks like. Let's move on to infinitive phrases. So, infinitive phrases come with the infinitive, that is to eat, to sleep, to work, and plus they come with modifiers, that is words that tell us more about the infinitives. So, let's understand the infinitive phrases better with the help of these two examples here. She likes to read books. The best way to identify the infinitive phrase is by identifying the word to. So, we have to read books. To read books is our infinitive phrase because it has the infinitive to read and plus a modifier, that is books. Let's look at the next sentence. To earn money is a desire of everyone, which is true. So, to earn money, because we have the word to here, becomes our infinitive phrase. To earn is our infinitive verb and money is simply a modifier, and that is the structure of the infinitive phrase. We have the infinitive plus we have a modifier, and this is a very simple phrase to identify because we simply have to look out for that too. So, let's look at our next type of phrase, which is the adverb phrase. Now, adverb phrases are a group of words that function as an adverb. An adverb is a word that tells us more about the verb or an adjective. And what I'm going to tell you next is very important. Now, I want you to know that sometimes an adverb phrase can also be a prepositional phrase. So, let's look at the first sentence to understand what I just said. Stacy always drives with care. So, here our adverb phrase is with care because let me ask the verb the question, how does Stacy drive? With care, because it's telling us more about how she drives, which is our verb. But do you all see that this phrase starts with with? With is a preposition and therefore with care can also be a prepositional phrase. I want you to know that when you look at a particular phrase, it can be identified under different heads. What I mean by that is that it can be a prepositional phrase or an adjective phrase or an adverb phrase. The trick there is to identify how it works, what role it performs in the sentence. So, let's move on to our next sentence now. Ron sat in a corner of the room. So, in a corner is our adverb phrase because where did he sit? He sat in a corner. And it's telling us more about the verb sat, and therefore in a corner is our adverb phrase. You can also call it a prepositional phrase because it starts with a preposition in. So, I hope you all have understood this lesson on the different types of phrases. Well, until next time guys, happy learning.